Hi. I went over the format of what I put together here, and I'm showing how that I'm trying to reconcile our Gregorian calendar with the Jews and make this more fit, and really why I think there's more evidence for a Wednesday crucifixion than there is for a Friday. And I lean really heavily on Jesus saying 3 days and 3 nights on the third day. He didn't say on the second day or a day and a half later or 2 mornings, 1 evening kind of thing. Christ was very specific. I don't think we keep him as precise and specific as he was. I was listening to a pastor the other day on the TV, and it frustrates me that you let Jesus use one parable and everything's a parable. He uses one allegory of figurativism. Then they say, well, everything's a figurativism. This one guy was saying that, well, there really isn't a hell. Because Jesus was just saying that's a bad feeling that you have, or it's being in a bad place in this world. He might have been a Jehovah's Witnesses that I was listening to. But it's so easy to get us off as Christians with one thing, precision. When you look at the Garden of Eden, what was the problem with Eve? She wasn't precise. Adam wasn't precise. You were not. See, what the serpent did was get her off precision. Well, you can't touch it or eat it? He didn't say you couldn't eat it. He said you couldn't touch it. Again, the precision was, unless you're going to lean over and bite with your mouth, you weren't supposed to have any dealings with it. But God was very precise with what would happen with that fruit and what would happen with that tree. He was very precise with the establishment of the tabernacle, how big, how tall, what it was going to be covered with, how it was going to be inlaid. He was very precise with the temple, how big, how tall, what kind of stones, how they'd be set up, where you would set it up, how you would face it, how you would create the courtyard and all this stuff. And when you look at Ezekiel 40 through 48, the precision again. So I think there's some precision here that we need to look at instead of just the speculation of, Friday crucifixion, big deal. It is a big deal. Is the Bible right or is the Bible wrong? And more importantly, is Jesus right or was Jesus vague? See, I'm not going to stand before him and say, I thought that you were vague. I think he was clear. I think he said 3 days and 3 nights. This goes over, and I believe, start it back up again, I believe that it will show what I'm going to do. So I did, again, our midnight, 6 a.m., noon, 6 p.m., how we think is as in the 21st century. Our days, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then we get to the Jewish evening and morning. Then I worked backwards to put in the 10th of Nisan. Now there's an interesting scripture in Exodus 12:3. Exodus 12:3 says that on the 10th day of the first month you will take the lamb and separate it out. Separate the lamb, and the lamb will be separated until it is slaughtered on Passover, which would have been 4 days later. I mean, the math is there. It's very simple. In Exodus, they were told to take this lamb, and you'll take it in, and you prepare it. It's going to be a lamb without blemish, taken from the fold, and you'll have it, and you'll get it prepared, and it will become the Passover lamb on the 14th day of Nisan. So that sets up 4 days. So I'm saying that, and also the fact that, one thing I'll show down here, on the 17th of Nisan, which I think is another reason, the 17th of Nisan, the day the 17th again was when Noah's Ark landed. Why would God not hit those two important days? The day of new birth, when the Ark landed and they opened the doors, and the Ark is done. Why wouldn't God hit those 2 days? Why would he not have Christ come in on the triumphal entry on the same day as they're picking the lamb for the Passover lamb? Why wouldn't he have Christ's resurrection on the same day, that is the 17th, which is the anniversary of Noah's Ark landing? Why would he miss those days? I think it would be pretty cool. I think he didn't miss those days. So let's look down this. We have the 10th of Nisan. We have the selection of the lamb that happens, and I'm going to put it in the morning. They probably didn't pick it at night. They probably got up early in the morning. You had all day to do it. Some of this, okay, you're going to get me. It's a little bit speculative, but hey, there's nothing on the other side but the Catholic Church says so, or the Protestants have always believed this. You have your own traditions, and you have your own ideas and speculations. You really don't have, other than, well, Jesus in the Bible was vague. I'm not going there. I can't go there. So we have the 10th of Nisan, the selection of the Passover lamb according to Exodus 12. Then you have the triumphal entry, and I'm going with Mark's gospel mostly on this. Then there was evening, and it says in the triumphal entry, when he came in, he's got all this hoopla. Yeah, you're the Messiah. I mean, you're not just a king, you're the king coming. You think you couldn't have got a room? But he turns around with all of the people, with his disciples, and goes back to Bethany. This is like a 3 to 5 mile walk. You think he couldn't have got a room? No, he goes back to Bethany. Then he comes back in the morning, which is what we call Monday. Mark 11 says, in the morning, in the next morning. And that's when he did the cursing of the fig tree. He goes into the temple, cast out the money changers on this day. So, that happened there according to Mark. The other Gospels aren't as specifically on giving you days, but Mark is there. That happens here on Monday. So he does that, and then he goes back. Then we see on Mark 11:20, it says, in the morning. There's your second morning. So he goes in the morning, and so this is Tuesday. Now, Tuesday is a big day for Jesus. Everything that happens between 11:20 and 15:1 happens on Tuesday. He calls down, that's when he has the parable of the husbandmen, the ones that have the vineyard, and kill the servants and kill the prophets, but then they kill the son. What do you think the father, the owner of the husbandmen, the owner of the vineyard is going to do? This is a parable that Jesus taught. He teaches that one. And like I've said in other videos, it's the only one that has no transformation, no teaching. You don't change. If the lost coin is found, the lost sheep is found, the prodigal son returns. Parables have a focal point going from one to the other. This one has no focal point. It is simply the husbandmen are wrong and they're going to get slaughtered, especially if they kill the son. In the story, they're like, if we kill the son, we'll get the inheritance. How? How did you think that you would get the inheritance by killing the son? So he tells this one, and this is one of several things he does against the Pharisees up here on the morning in Tuesday. Then he has the evening where he teaches some. He talks about in Matthew, we do have him talking about the comings, or what are the signs of your coming. So he does all of that talk about wars, rumors of wars, famines, pestilence. He does a lot of it. John will have a lot of discourse where he gives a lot of information. You'll have the word love more in the book of John. You'll have the more emotions in the book of John, which is really good. You'll get a lot more information about this time period in the book of John. But here, leaning mostly on Mark, he has this parable. He's got all his teachings. He has the Last Supper in the evening. Then comes in the night. He's got this prayer. I should have put that in there. He's praying, and they keep going to sleep. He keeps praying for another hour. They keep going to sleep. Then comes his rest in the night. It's not in the morning yet, because Peter, remember, Peter that denies him, and when the cock crows, that's in the morning. That's before the sun comes up. So we have this happening in the evening with various trials, and again, the denial by Peter, and of course all the others denied him. In the morning, and if you look at 15:1, it's in the morning. Now, Jesus' enemies had been up all night trying. They ran him back and forth from Caiaphas and Ananias to Herod, and they ran him back and forth trying to condemn him. They couldn't get witnesses to chide. Finally, they got him to agree that he was Messiah by him saying, you said it. I mean, when they said, are you the Son of the Blessed One? He goes, you said it. It was an affirmation statement, not a you said it, I didn't kind of statement. I heard a history professor try to make it that way, but it's an affirmation statement. It's like if someone says, it's a pretty day, and I said, you said it. It's an affirmation statement. So here he goes to Pilate and has his trial, and then he's put on trial and taken around. This is when you had the releasing of the other prisoner instead of him. And then you have him being crucified. He gets on there on Wednesday. And Wednesday, 9 a.m., he goes on the cross. It gets dark at Wednesday noon. And then at Wednesday 3 p.m., he calls out, my God, why have you forsaken me? And he gives up the ghost. The ghost doesn't leave until he says so. He's run the entire show from the triumphal entry to here and then after. He's running the show. He made them mad. He ticked them off. He turned over the money changers. He wouldn't let anyone enter the temple unless he said so. He was running the show. He spoke against the Pharisees and Sadducees and Herodians. He was really off the chain, making them angry, and they're going to crucify him. But he ran the whole thing. So here we have him. He even died at 3 p.m. at the same point. Tradition will say that they slaughtered the lamb at 3 p.m. right before the Passover meal. This is where they would have had the Passover meal. They have their Last Supper early. So it's interesting how we tend to think that this was a Passover meal. I'll back up to something. It's not. It's the Last Supper. They were actually, it looks like the plan was to be in that room for 2 nights. I mean, think about it. They asked Jesus, the disciples asked Jesus, where do we go to get a place in preparation for the Passover? So it's like, you better get a room early and maybe get there a day ahead of time. You don't want to get there on the 13th and look for an evening. I really honestly believe that dinner was not a Passover meal, although it had the aspects of it. The Passover meal was never done by them, by those disciples that I know of. Maybe they had Passover and we don't know about it or something like this because they're good observant Jews. But it looks like to me the plan was for them to have the room for 2 nights. We're going to eat just a regular fellowship meal, which for them meals were fellowships. And then we're going to next night have the Passover. And then came all of this stuff with the trials and the murder and death and burial. And Joseph Arimathea puts him away, and all this happens before 6 p.m. on Wednesday. Now we have the 14th, which is 6 hours before our Thursday. Then we have the morning of Thursday. Then we have the evening starts, which is the unleavened bread starts on the 15th. And then they have their Sabbath on the 16th. 3 days and 3 nights. And then here comes the 17th of Nisan, and right on the money, right on the day that the ark landed. See, God, like I said, the 17th is a floating day. The 17th any other year could have been on, the day before or the day after, the first day, the second day, the third day. It's like your birthday. It's like Christmas. It falls on a different day. But this year, in 32 AD, I'm going to go with the 17th lands on the first day of the week. And I don't think God misses this. Now, I know that specific is not in the Bible, but there's more scriptural evidence for this, like I said, than there is for a Friday crucifixion. Like I said, all we've got is, and I haven't looked around in Eusebius and some of the church fathers, but what I have read is it doesn't go back that far to say that it's a Friday crucifixion. I know a lot of people that lean more into the Catholic tradition. I read there's some astrologers who say, well, that year, 32 AD, and that would have been, but again, because the Gregorian calendar and the Julian calendar are so misaligned, because there's so much speculation over what year we're even in, we cannot trust those. But can you trust God? Can you trust Jesus when he says 3 days and 3 nights? And my focal point of this whole thing is Jesus said 3 days and 3 nights. And to me, this fits. Let me go back and show you something. I put this, you're probably wondering why. One morning, I have one evening. We have Christ dying. Here's the 14th. You have one evening, one morning, 2 evening, 2 morning, 3 evening, 3 morning. Now, Jesus, we have our tradition, which we might have to put aside. We have this so romantic thing of, Mary goes off on the first day of the week and there's Jesus, but he could have been risen for many hours. Nobody, the angel didn't say, well, shuck darns, man. Oh my goodness, you just missed him. He was here 10 minutes ago. Has anybody seen Jesus? Is he over by that tree? They didn't say that. They said he has risen. He has, past tense. When was he risen? Just now? Or could it have been hours ago? We have our idea again of the speculation of with the centurions and with the ones who are watching the tomb. We have that happen at night. Well, I'm going to say, and again, when you say to one of us, night, morning, it's different. For someone in the Hebrew tradition, morning is 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Evening is 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So if something happened at midnight, or if something happened at 10 o'clock, it's still in the evening. If it happened at 2 o'clock, it's still in the evening. So watch this. I'm going to go back up. You have Christ dying, and there's one evening. He was put in at 6 o'clock. So you have evening to 6 a.m. Then you have 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. That's one morning, one evening. You have a second evening on the 15th that began at 6 p.m. and it goes to 6 a.m. Then you have a second morning. Then on the 16th, and then you've got one morning, that's one morning, one evening, 2 mornings. That should say 3 right there. So the idea is, as he was there, that should have a 3 there instead of a 2. I messed up. So this was a regular evening on the. What I'm saying is that he was there a total morning, a total evening, a total morning, a total evening, a total morning, a total evening, and then a partial. So you're saying, well, you're speculating on that. Well, there's more evidence for this than there is for a Friday. But yeah, I kind of messed up on that one. But the idea is that he could have resurrected like at 2 o'clock in the morning, which was in that evening, but it wouldn't count because it wasn't a full evening. And you're saying, well, you're splitting hairs. Well, you're using speculation. So one of us, you weigh it out. One of us is saying God is vague and Jesus wasn't clear. One of us is not. So go ahead, think it over, think it through, puzzle it through. I have no problem with him getting resurrected at 2 o'clock in the morning before she got there, before Mary got there, and so he was there for a partial. I mean, if I said, he was there for 3 full days, and okay, I don't have no problem with him being resurrected within a partial day, but that's not a full daytime, nighttime time. And it fits the narrative real well. So, yeah, if he was there evening, morning, evening, morning, evening, morning, but he wasn't there a full 12 hours to count for which would have been a 4th evening. He maybe got resurrected at what we call midnight or 11 o'clock, and he's just hanging around in the garden like he normally does. And then here comes, and it does say that Mary got there in the morning. Now that's going to be a Jewish thing. If she'd have gotten there before 6, it wouldn't have been morning. It had been still in the evening, very, very late evening. We tend to think, well, if I get up, it's morning. You ever work graveyard? It doesn't work that way. And I think it's very precise. I think she got up and went off, got the spices she needed real quick, and then she arrived. She could have got up in that evening, to be clear, and got what she needed, and then got there in the morning after 6 a.m. Jesus could have been resurrected 6 to 12 hours, and that fits our romantic motif of it's dark, and then all of a sudden there's the earthquake, and all the centurions and people start screaming around, and the rock rolls uphill, which it did. It still all fits. And that's where I'm going with this, is there's no reason not to go with a Wednesday crucifixion. There's no reason to not see this as clear, except for my one little typo, that he was resurrected. He died. And there's one evening, one morning. There's 2 evenings, 2 mornings. That should have been 3 evenings and 3 mornings. And this is just a normal evening of the 17th. So, And so he did, and he was resurrected within that evening, which is not a part of these. He would have been on the 17th of Nisan. And I don't think God missed the 17th of Nisan. Why would he tell you? That's something we have to realize in the Old Testament. God doesn't waste words. He's very, very, very ergonomic. He's very precise and he's very clear. I'm going to leave all of this for you to think about, ponder over. Like it, dislike it, that's okay. I'm going to sit around. Here we are with I'm going to find out when the 17th of Nisan is this year. I'm going to back it up. I'm going to go through these days myself. Okay, this is about right now he would be, about right now he would do triumphal entry. Ooh, right about now he'd be casting out those money changers maybe. Ooh, right about now he would be in Gethsemane praying. Oh, right about now on a Wednesday he would be suffering for my sins. And on Thursday, right about now, he's lying on the tomb and he's going to be there. And then sometime Saturday night, get up and go, he's risen. You don't have to wait till the morning when it's, it's all sunrise service and everybody's sipping coffee when the sun comes up. It's almost sun, S-U-N, worship instead of S-O-N, to tell you the truth. But I'm going to dodge a bullet on that one. I'm just saying, which one has the most scripture? And I'll leave that for you.